Hey guys, it's Elise and welcome back to My Cupcake Addiction. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a simple no-bake chocolate box that holds candy and chocolates, but it's also made out of candy and chocolate, so you can literally eat the whole thing. This is my kind of gift box. For this one, I'm going to use 3 whole blocks of chocolate. When you're choosing your chocolate blocks, it's a lot easier to measure if you go with one that's divided into squares rather than those kind of rectangle pieces, and try and choose a nice thin block. It just makes for neater edges and easier joining. I've got some fresh strawberries and I've got my chosen candy truffles. Like I said, you can put absolutely anything in this box. I've got 1 gumball and I've also got some melted dark candy melts. I've matched my candy melts to the color of my chocolate because I'm using dark chocolate blocks, but if you're using milk or white, make sure that you match your candy melts so they're the same color as the block of chocolate that you're using. I've also got a ziplock bag and I've got a knife. Let's get started. You want to work with room temperature chocolate here, so don't have your blocks of chocolate refrigerated, otherwise they'll be a bit too brittle. The first thing I've done is I've actually poured some boiling hot water into a tray. Be very careful here and do not try to move this tray once the water's in it until the water's completely cooled down. I'm resting my knife in there because that's going to heat it up and it's going to help me to melt through my chocolate, and really I'm just resting the blade. So I'm going to take my first block of chocolate, and for me mine's made up of 10 squares, so 5 along and 2 across. I'm just going to wipe any excess water off my knife, and then I'm going to let the heat from the knife essentially kind of melt its way through just the last row, so 2 squares or 1/5 of my first chocolate block. So really I'm just applying a little even pressure. I'm not trying to cut it, I'm just allowing the heat of that knife to kind of do its work, and through it goes. You want to repeat that with the second block. Again, heating the knife in between and letting it melt through until that chocolate kind of releases itself. Not only does that method stop the chocolate from cracking, but it also gives you really nice, sharp, smooth edges, which makes your box look neater when it's all stuck back together. So heating my knife again with my third block, I'm again going to cut off the 2 end pieces because I want to make sure that it's the same length as what's essentially going to be my lid and my base. And then I'm also going to cut lengthways across so that I've got 2 long rows. But I'm going to heat my knife in between because I want that knife to be really nice and hot to get through that chocolate. This cut here is probably your most precarious, so if you're going to be super gentle on any of them, make sure it's this long one. You want to take your 2 short ends now, and you're just going to cut the same thickness as the chocolate off either side. This is to allow us to get a really nice, seamless fit when we put our box together. Part of the cool thing about this box is that it's made out of blocks of chocolate. So rather than hiding those chocolate blocks, I've opted to have them showing on the outside so everybody knows exactly what we've done here. I've got my 2 long sides on either side of my base. My base is brick up and my long sides and my 2 short ends are brick down, in chocolate brick kind of terminology. I've got my melted dark chocolate in a Ziploc bag, and I'm just going to snip off a very fine little corner, which is going to create a piping bag. I'm going to run the dark chocolate around just the inside lip of that big chocolate base. I'm going to take my 2 end pieces first, and I'm going to balance them. You might just need to balance them for a second just while that chocolate becomes a little tacky, but don't wait too long. And you want to make sure they're lined up nicely with that base piece of chocolate. Before you attach your 2 sides, you're going to run just a little bit of chocolate along the inside edge of each. So I'm going to do 1. And on it goes. You'll notice I'm grabbing my chocolate block by the sides so I don't end up with big fingerprints. This is kind of the messy part of the job, and I really don't want to get messy fingerprints on the outside of my really nice, neat chocolate box. You've got a couple of minutes here while that chocolate sets just to go around the outside edges, and you can just run your finger up them. Make sure that you've got a really nice flush finish and that everything's kind of even so you don't have any overhang on any of your sides. I'm happy my box is looking really nice and neat, and because I've been really careful to handle it with the sides, my chocolate's still really shiny with no kind of messy fingerprints on it. I'm going to take my melted chocolate and my gumball, and I'm going to put a handle because we need to be able to get the lid off our chocolate box once it's all sealed. So just a decent sized blob of chocolate and a gumball. Before you start stuffing your box with candy, strawberries, gifts, whatever you want, make sure that it's really nice and set, and don't set these ones in the fridge because it can discolor your chocolate and make it sweat. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to add fresh strawberries and then my chosen candies before we stick the lid on. My little candy gift box is now completely set. It's full of some fresh strawberries to balance out my fruit requirements, as well as some of my favorite candies. Now all that's left to do is to pop the lid on. If you're going to transport this one any kind of distance, I'd recommend putting just a little dot of dark chocolate just underneath each corner of the lid to hold it in place. This one's going straight to my husband for Valentine's Day, so I'm going to put the lid just on a slightly jaunty angle so he can get a peek of what's inside. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's really novel way to use standard blocks of chocolate to make something that's anything other than standard without having to turn on the oven. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do for 2 new videos every week. And as always guys, thanks very much for watching.